right, so you guys are getting ready for a test, and to prepare for that, what you're going to do is you're going to go up to the front table. You're going to grab a big sheet of white paper, an extra big slice, and you're going to grab a thing of markers. If you can't find them, go and ask me. So pause this video, go up and grab a huge slice of white paper and a thing of markers, and we're going to make a study guide. All right, so study guide is what you're going to make today on a big sheet of white paper. So I'm actually just going to go to plain white paper here. You should also have your notes out because you're going to be making the study guide with me and with your notes. So on the top of your big white slice, write study guide. It's on quadratics. Then take out a marker of your choice and make sure in a box, I wanted to make sure you're 100% sure what a quadratic is. It's ax squared plus bx plus c. And that is what we are going to take some review notes on. And have your notes open because you're going to supply the examples as I go through and talk you through the creation of a study guide. So open your notes to section 2.1. And the first thing we did is we evaluated. So when you're evaluating, what you need to do is replace each x with a set of parentheses. So every place you see an x, you're going to replace it with parentheses. And then in the parentheses, put the given value in. Keep in mind that anything squared is a positive. But if there was a negative out front of it, it will be negative. So just keep in mind that if you're sticking a negative 3 into this, you're going to get positive 9. But if you're sticking a negative 3 into this, you're going to get a negative 9. So what I want you to do is go in your notes and find one of the examples of this and put it down. When that's done, so you're going to be kind of pausing off and on. When that's done, you're going to draw a bar. So you're going to go to your notes for 2.1 and you supply an example right here in bright red. So use your bright red marker and you supply an example. Section 2.2, you need to know what the graph is going to look like. So it's just kind of, I would call this graph analysis. Could you, if you looked at the equation, tell me some things about the graph? For example, if A is positive, the parabola will open up. Positive smile. If A is negative, the parabola will open down. Negative frown. All right, I'm going to ask you that. The graph is called a parabola. It's a U-shaped graph called a parabola. When A gets bigger than 1, technically an absolute value, so like 3 or 5 or negative 7 or negative 8, then the graph gets narrower because it gets stretched out, it gets stretched taller. If that lead number is less than 1 in absolute value, like a half or a fourth or negative 1/8, it's like you're squishing it down to a fraction of its height and it makes it wider. So you will be asked, take out your red marker, this one I will supply the example on. You will be asked to fill in the blanks on something like this. I will give you a parabola. Go ahead and write this down. Again, use your bright red marker for the examples. I will supply this one. And I want you, as I talk, to write down what I'm saying. You ready? This parabola will open down. I want you to circle this. So you're going to write this parabola will open down because a half is less than 1. All right? Will open down because A is equal to negative 1/2, which is less than 1. Okay? It will make what we call a parabola. So what I know is it's going to make an upside down frowned parabola. Then the next thing is it wider or narrower than what we call the parent function? The parent function is just this average Joe Blow one without any numbers really attached to it. It's just got a 1 right here. And because I've got a half, what that means is the y's, and y's give you your height, will be squashed down to 1/2 of what they would be. It's going to make it wider. So we'll say it will be wider than y equals x squared. And keep in mind, this is called the parent function. So in this section, you're just going to be filling in the blanks on your test question, where I'm going to ask you about if it opens up or down, what does it make, is it wider or narrower than the parent function. All right, go ahead and draw a bar. Next up, you need to know how to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So open your notes to 2.3, finding the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So on our parabola, remember the axis of symmetry is this splitter, and the vertex lives on it. So to get the axis of symmetry, we use the formula x is equal to the opposite of b over twice a. And because the vertex lives on here, we get to just plug that in. If we find that our axis of symmetry is 2 to the right, well, then my vertex is 2 to the right, and I just stick a 2 in there. So to get this, we need to plug the x in. And now you are going to go in your notes and find an example of that and write it in red. And I will not give you a practice test until you've done that. And when you come up to me with these notes, I'm going to ask you some questions about them. So we're going to make sure, this is a hard chapter, we're going to make sure we have it all down. You are going to supply an example of finding both of those from your notes. So you're going to need to pause and go add that. Next up, 2.4, you're going to be asked to graph a parabola. So have your notes open to 2.4 and let's discuss how we graphed it. When we're graphing, when we are graphing this parabola, the first thing I'm going to ask you is to identify A, B, and C. Oopsie. A, B, and C. And you're just going to go right up to the equation and pluck off A. Sorry, I did it again. What is wrong with me? You're going to pluck off A, which is 2, B, which is negative 4, and C, which is 1. Then what I'm going to ask you to do is find the axis of symmetry. And I want you to write the formula for that down. To find the axis of symmetry, we do x is equal to negative b over 2a. I want you to do that right now for this problem. Then you'll be asked to find the vertex. When you're done doing this one, you're going to bring it up to me. So you'll be asked to find the vertex. So whatever you got right here, you stick it right there. It is the x coordinate of the vertex. To find the y coordinate, whatever you put right here needs to go up and get plugged in for x. And you can go on a calculator and evaluate that. I would suggest that's what you do. Then you will make a table of values, x's and y's. In the middle of your table, you're going to put your vertex. Then you're going to select the next two numbers to the right of that vertex. So had that been at 5, you would choose 6 and 7 to put here and here. Had it been -1, you choose 0 and 1. You're going to go 2 to the right. You're going to plug those numbers in for x to get the y values. You can use your calculator. And then you go 2 to the left, and you get to steal these two. At this point, before you graph it, you're going to stop this video, and you're going to come and have me check this one. All right, I got to make sure you can do it right. When I tell you it's correct, then on your study guide, you are going to go make the graph. So stop the video right now and have me check that your axis of symmetry is correct, your vertex is correct, and your chart is correct. When I give you the OK, you will then plot that and make the graph. This is a hard test, so we're going to make sure we've got this down. Then after we got done with all our parabola basics, we started solving. So in 2.5, we did solving, and again, you're on the big sheet of paper, using square roots. And I want you to go in your notes, and I want you to find 2 examples to put right on this sheet. That will remind you of how to solve by square roots. Remember what we do. We isolate that x squared term. We get it all by itself. We get rid of anything in the way. Then we take the square root, and we remember that our answers are plus or minus. We also remember that we can't root negatives. So if you end up doing that, we write no solution. But you're going to go in your notes for 2.5, and you're going to supply 2 examples of that. Once we were done with 2.5, in 2.6, we used what was called the zero product property. Doesn't really matter that you know its name. And again, you should be having some markers and be making a nice study sheet. And pause this. Just make it really nice. I will not give you a practice test or a test until I see a really nice study guide. The zero product property says that if things multiply to equal 0, at least one of them has to be 0. So if I am solving this right here, I have to figure out what makes each of these pieces equal to 0. I would like you to do that, and I'll check it when you bring it up to me. You don't need to get examples from your notes, just one example of that. That was pretty easy, but stop the video and go give the solutions to that. Then what we did in 2.7 and 2.8 is we use this zero product property to solve quadratics by factoring. So you'll notice in these problems up here on 2.6, this is already factored, so you really didn't have to worry about it. But when we solve by factoring, we've got to do a little bit more work. The first thing we need to make sure we do is we get it equal to 0. If it's not, we need to put it equal to 0. Next, we use all our factoring skills to factor the quadratic. Basically, we unfoil it 9 times out of 10. We're going to be really careful with one like this because although it's equal to 0, this one we don't unfoil because each term has an x in it. We get to take that x out, and it's actually a lot easier when they look like this, when there are only 2 terms like that. So each piece will supply us with a solution. Either x itself is 0, and this will get obliterated in the first term, or x would have to equal, because x minus 5 would have to equal 0, x would have to equal 5. So we're going to be careful about that. So once we factor it, number 3, we set each factor, my smartboard's on a little bit of a delay here, equal to 0, and we solve it. You're going to go in your notes for 2.7 and you are going to supply me, and 2.8 actually, you are going to supply me with 2 examples of this process. All right, so you're going to pull them right out of your notes. And last up, again, you should have paused the video and gone to your notes. Trying to get you used to using your notes since we spend so much time taking them. Last up, we solved by using the quadratic formula. And I think I put 3 of these on your test. So if you are not comfortable using this formula, you need to make sure you are before you even ask me for a test. That's the beauty of this process. You do not get a test until everything's done and until you tell me you're ready. And only then will you take the test. And that's why almost everybody is passing. So what we're going to do here is use the quadratic formula. In order for you to use it, you really need to know what it is. So what I want you to do is take out your notes and write it down. Then I want you to shut your notes and rewrite it. Then I want you to shut your notes, turn this page over, and write it again. You're going to write the quadratic formula 3 times. It needs to be memorized. All right? So you go do that, and again, pause the video. So we would have, make sure you have it on here right, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you should have written that here and here. And really using this formula is like following a map. So what I'm going to do here is put one example on. You are going to solve it, and then you're going to bring the entire slice up to me, and I'm really going to drill you on this study guide. So you might want to make sure you know what you've written down, because I am not going to give you a practice test until I think you know what you're doing. So you might want to look at this a little bit, but you're going to come up to me after you have solved this equation using the quadratic formula, and then I will ask you a couple questions. If all goes well, we'll take a test. I want you to use the quadratic formula on 2x squared plus 7x minus 4 equals 0. When that's done, you're going to bring it up to me. All right? So next up, once I pass you off on your study guide, you'll take a practice test. Once I okay that, you'll take a test, and all will be lovely. Peace out, Girl Scout.